I am very pleasantly surprised this week to be joined in studio by David Ellis of 343 Industries on a visit from Seattle, from the greater Seattle area.
Sunny Seattle to sunny San Francisco. What's going on here?
What is going on? What climate are we living in?
Maybe global warming's not so bad.
Maybe not in the Pacific Northwest anyway, Northern California. So anyway, David, you're here, you're in town. So I think maybe we'll talk about Halo 4.
Maybe.
I've heard of that.
We could talk about anything.
You're from 343, but what most people may or may not know is you used to work in this very company that Mitch and I now call home. You were at 1UP.
Yeah. Did some work for 1UP and did some work for EGM as well. We were part of what we lovingly refer to as the Ziff Davis Mafia in the old days. On 101 2nd Street. We were walking by the old office today on the way over here because, of course, all the major game media outlets are all on this one strip, this one 2nd Street in San Francisco. You just walk from one to the other.
Yeah.
Which makes doing media tours a lot easier than it used to be. Except for Future, all the way down.
Go all the way. If anybody ever firebombed 2nd Street, there'd be a lot of job openings.
Yeah, no more game journalism.
In the games media. But, you're a Spartan Ops designer, a mission designer for Halo 4 at 343 now. But you used to do what Mitch and I do, the games media thing. So, it seems like most people that do this being what the games media thing, eventually cross over either to the PR dark side, like the total opposite of what we do, or into actual game development. And you've obviously gone over to the development side. Was it something that you actively wanted to do, like, maybe covering games? Did you feel like, boy, I really love the nuts and bolts of this, or were you recruited into it?
It's funny, like to add a little extra context, before I worked at 1UP and EGM, I've had a really, really weird career path. I studied government communications in college and actually worked in Washington, D.C.
Sleeping already.
I know, but I'm going to get there. It involves prison, stint in prison. I'm not kidding. I worked in Washington, D.C. as a political consultant and congressional staffer for 5 or 6 years, and sort of left that after the 2002 election. Moved back to North Carolina, where I'm originally from, just to try to figure out what the heck I was going to do in my life. I ended up working as a detention officer at a prison there for a couple of years, which, I'm glad.
So I should not start any shit with you. You will put me down.
He'll whip out a baton.
I don't know about that. I did get stabbed once while I was in prison.
What? Is that true?
It's totally true.
Oh, my God.
Where?
It's occupational in the shoulder. Up to the bottom of my
right. With a shank?
Yeah,
Jesus
bottom of my right shoulder blade, and it went out the side of my arm. I still have some scars.
Cool. So when you get... okay, you're the first guest we've ever had on that's been stabbed.
You are our first stab victim.
So where it was... Did you ever think I'm going to die, or were you like, okay, no, it's shoulder, I'm going to be okay, but this hurts?
Well, so I was very fortunate. So basically, we're going down a weird path.
Yeah, let's go there. We're
going to get there. It's just a long road.
That's what separates, for those tuning in, I actually filled in for Greg Miller. You can catch David and I on Up at Noon on youtube.com/start. So it's important that we go to a totally different place than we did on Up at Noon. So let's get into the stabbing.
So to not go into too much of the gory details, but basically it was a retribution because I had thrown an individual into solitary for a while, and he spent a couple of months shaping the corner of a lunch tray into about an 8-inch shiv, and I made the mistake of...
So he really wanted to stab you.
Yeah. I made the mistake of allowing him to get behind me, which is something you absolutely shouldn't do and never do for various reasons in prison. But he pretty much, he was trying to stab me right in the middle of my back, right through the heart. And I happened to turn at the last second, and he went right underneath my right shoulder blade and went all the way outside of my arm. Fortunately, it was plastic, so it didn't really do a whole lot of damage. Just sort of scraped a little bit around.
So someone legitimately tried to murder you.
Yeah.
This is the darkest we've ever gone.
That is...
It's not dark, because I got out of there, and I'm sure that jerk's still in prison. So
and now... he's going to play Halo 4 in prison and see your name in the credits and be like, God damn it! I hate that guy! And it's going to ruin...
Or he'll be like, man, I'm glad I didn't kill that guy after all.
Halo for him.
Did I mention he was actually, at his heart, he was a really good guy. Sweet fellow. I didn't really want to hurt anyone, so please don't retaliate and try to track me down. I mean you no harm, sir. It turned out okay. But, I did that for a couple of years, and, just somehow stumbled into working at 1UP through weird.
So
weird
on your resume, 1UP's corrections officer. You'd fit in perfectly here.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I really hated my job. I hated what I was doing, and I liked video games. And Mark McDonald, who
former staffer there as well.
Yeah, he's the one who hired me, and I moved out to San Francisco. So a lot of people like to ask, like, how do you get in the industry? And ultimately, you have to be willing to make no money, do the shitty jobs, and take huge risks. I moved from where I was.
I don't know what that's
Carolina.
like.
Yeah, and live in the most expensive city in the nation.
I moved out here with $2,000 that my parents and family had sort of scraped together and basically gave me. No car, 2 bags, nowhere to live, to take a $10 an hour internship. I didn't even get hired full time when I started. It was an internship. Kate became full time, and just sort of slept on people's couches and mooched off people, and it worked out. But that's what it takes for those people that love to ask that question. It's like, how do you break in?
Oh, just jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
Just go crazy.
It's either going to work out or it doesn't, and you end up where you were before you gave it a shot.
So to break into the games media industry, you need to get stabbed.
Right.
It certainly doesn't hurt.
Well,
chicks dig scars.
It is kind of a reminder that what we do is really not. It doesn't really matter.
Right, like the highest stress I have is like, I have so many words to write today.
I don't agree with that. It absolutely does matter, because when I was working in prison, I was listening to the podcast.
No, you're right. It's true.
And man, it gave me some escapism, and we forget that. I mean, don't get me wrong. What we do for a living, it's long hours, it's hard hours, and sometimes we don't necessarily get paid what we think we should get paid, but it doesn't suck.
No.
But, you can have the best job in the world and still have bad days you don't want to get up and go to work. It's just human nature. So, I hold a special place without Mark giving me that opportunity, and I certainly wouldn't be where I was today. So, kind of to answer your initial question.
So let's fast forward to So how do you break off to the game development side?
I worked at 1UP for a while, and then everyone, or a lot of people know that 1UP was owned by a different company at that point, and there were some layoffs, and basically the vast majority of the staff was laid off, and that was an unfortunate occurrence. So a lot of my friends just weren't there, and we came into work the next day, and that sort of bummed me out, and it wasn't the same. I was still working with some really great people, was able to do some cool stuff, but it was very different. And so I was starting at that point to decide that I was thinking I was going to move on and do something else, and I had some other opportunities lined up, and actually 343, but actually before it was 343, approached me to take a different position, a more community-focused position, and that had kind of become a cliche at a certain point.
Like that job was just like kind of a joke because everyone was taking it and nobody knew what it was.
I mean, it's a tough job.
Sure,
nothing
absolutely.
But respect. I mean,
community manager
Chow, who was former 1UP as well, went and was community manager at 4's for a while. He's now studio producer at our studio. It's a tough, thankless job, but yeah, it's right. No, most people don't really realize what community managers do, and I ultimately didn't want to necessarily just do the community stuff. I had come to a spot where I was either going to move to a different outlet somewhere, or I wanted to be involved with making the games. It was something that never really. It's nothing I ever thought I would do. It wasn't even anything I really aspired to, because nothing's worse than you know what it's like. So we used to do a media tours together, Ryan and Mitch, but you'll see some people who go there who it seems like their whole reason that they're in the press is to try to get a job in development, and that sort of always rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, and it's ironic that I would say that, of course, but
those sketchy guys.
I always pot calling the kettle black.
I know, but I always tried to. I don't know. I no matter what I'm doing, it's what I enjoy doing, and that's where my focus is at. When I was working at 1UP, whether it was doing the video stuff, the podcast stuff, the writing stuff, is like that's what I put my heart and soul in. I don't know any other way to be. But when I realized that there was an opportunity to move to a studio, I had to make a decision of did I really want to do the community stuff, or did I want to try to do something else? And so the first time we talked, we just realized it wasn't necessarily a good fit, and sort of went away. And I thought, oh, that was my one shot. I'll probably never get that opportunity again. And being a huge Halo fan, it was tough, but about a year later, another opportunity presented itself that allowed me to sort of do some hybrid stuff, to do some video stuff, do some podcast stuff, but also sort of start to try to work behind the scenes on training up to work on some of the design stuff. And I've been fortunate that between Frank and Allison Stroll, who is my former manager on the franchise media team, they were really supportive of me to give me this opportunity. Josh Holmes, who's our creative director, definitely allowed me some leeway to be able to get this opportunity. So I owe a lot of people a lot of debt of gratitude. I think anytime you do anything worthwhile in life, there's other people who have helped along the way. You can't do it on your own. So I've been very fortunate, but I've been working very hard for a long time. So it was sort of a slow process.
Well, I was going to say, because it's design in particular.
Yeah.
Because that's I don't know a thing about programming. I don't have any artistic skills.
You and I both, brother.
I know how to write and I know how to talk.
But you say you have no artistic experience, but there's different types of art, and writing is definitely an art and a skill.
Yeah, I mean, talking like visual art.
Is my nose brown?
No, it's good.
That was pretty good, right?
Good.
This interview's going so well. But yeah, like usually to get into design, typically, right, you work your way up generally like through the QA testing ranks, right?
Yeah, a lot of people
do. You sort of earn your stripes that way.
Yeah, and I like I said, I've been fortunate. I'm just for a while there, I was basically working 2 jobs. I was training up on everything, but also doing my day job and trying to make sure that I'm juggling all these plates and actually not letting anyone down and not letting anything slip through the cracks. Someone who you know pretty well, Kynan Pearson, he definitely took me under his wing, and I've learned a ton from Kynan. He's been in the industry forever, one of the smartest people I know.
The lead multiplayer level designer on Halo 4, who's the man largely responsible for the very awesome contingent of Halo 4 maps, which, I might add, we're doing regular tours of, all 10.
Every Tuesday
Halo
and
4
Thursday.
Every Tuesday and Thursday at IGN.com. Very well played.
You guys nailed that plug.
Well done. How organic was that, by the way? That was great.
So just basically working on that. I do a little bit of everything. Like one of the cool things about working on Spartan Ops is that as the mission designer, you basically, because these are sort of bite-sized mission experiences.
Yeah, so it's a 4-player co-op campaign that sort of, for reasons I don't quite understand, replaces Firefight. Firefight's gone. It was a cool new thing in ODST. Bungie brought it back for Reach. Why is Firefight? Before we get into Spartan Ops, why not bring Firefight back? I mean, it's one thing to, okay, we have Spartan Ops now, but why ditch Firefight? Is it just a time thing? Are you guys going to pocket it and reintroduce it as a new thing for Halo 5? Why get rid of it?
Well, so, I mean, ultimately, everything in life comes with a cost benefit. You only have so many people, you have only so many hours and so many things that you can work on. And so when we were deciding on what the feature package for Halo 4 was going to be, we were trying to figure out, we liked Firefight, but we felt like Bungie had really gone as far as they could do. They basically gave fans almost every tool imaginable to customize that experience however they wanted to. And it went in more of an arcade-style experience. So,
very true.
Which was pretty interesting because it was more survival-oriented in ODST. And so we felt like Bungie did a really good job and had really explored that area pretty far. And we decided early on we wanted to do something different. And Spartan Ops, even from the early days when I started at the studio, Spartan Ops was the part of the project that excited me personally most as like a gamer and a fan of the series because it's very new and it's very different. And we felt like there was the opportunity. And people like playing against the enemies. We refer to it internally as PvE.
Player versus enemy.
Yeah, versus like PvP. And people like that. But we thought that we could do something different and actually provide a more campaign-like experience because people were always clamoring for these campaign experiences. They wanted to continue these huge epic stories after the campaign ends. They didn't want to wait multiple years. And so we saw Spartan Ops as an opportunity to actually do some very big experimentation. I don't think anyone's quite done anything like what we're attempting with this. And it just made sense. I mean, I think for fans of Firefight, they're going to get a lot of that same experience, that same enjoyment of fighting against
like waves of tough guys,
fighting against the Covenant, being challenged. Having your gun, having your squad mates, your 3 squad mates around your side, and in overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. And so we think it's absolutely going to. It's the term we use, scratch that itch, that particular itch.
But there's a cream for that.
Yes, it's called Halo Halo 4, and it's available November 6th.
That's a $60 cream.
But we thought there was an opportunity to do something more with it and actually continue the story after the campaign ends and sort of help bridge those years between mainline campaigns to keep the universe alive and constantly moving forward.
So it's a 4-player weekly downloadable side co-op campaign. Essentially.
It literally does pick up, sort of a lot of the narrative strings and layers that take place in the main campaign. It continues kind of the overarching story arc and moving the universe forward.
Should I finish the single player campaign before playing Spartan Ops?
Yes.
Am I going to spoil anything if I roll into Spartan Ops first?
Yes.
Okay.
So we absolutely recommend. I mean, you could go in some of the missions and not necessarily spoil a whole lot. We're cognizant of that in the early weeks of content that we've sort of planned out. But the CG series that's debuting alongside Spartan Ops. I guess I should explain it just in case there's people out there that don't.
There's a lot going on with this game.
Yeah. Okay. So Spartan Ops. What am I downloading every week?
So basically, you have the main campaign. And then you have the other main component of the Halo 4 is the Infinity multiplayer experience, which combines war games, which is kind of our competitive multiplayer, which people will recognize.
Yeah, tried and true stuff.
We sort of wrapped this fictional kind of wrap around everything. The war games are actually taking place on board the UNSC Infinity. That's how big this ship is. It's a simulation, basically. It's training Spartans to fight the best, and the best, of course, are other Spartans, so fighting against one another. The other component of it is Spartan Ops, which is kind of live fire missions on the ground, boots on the ground. You're sent out there. These are the best of Spartans that are going to take care of business that the UNSC needs taken care of. And so Spartan Ops, we're basically, in essence, kind of launching a TV series this year, where we have a computer-animated series, a generated series. It's super high production quality that will kind of tell the story of Fire Team Majestic, which is a fire team of Spartans on board the Infinity. You'll also continue the story of some characters from the main campaign in Halo 4 that you're introduced to. And it's basically kind of telling a little bit about life aboard the Infinity. Some crazy stuff happens. And then in addition to that, you basically have 5 missions or chapters which tie in and continue the story of the CG episodes that you see each week. And those are the missions that you'll actually play with you and 3 friends on co-op, and those are the things. So you'll get 5 of those missions or chapters each week, and the CG series. And we've announced 10 weeks of content,
10 weeks.
50 missions for this season of Spartan Ops.
Boy, it's almost confusing because there is you called it a TV series. There actually is a TV series, Forward Unto Dawn, which is 5 weeks that are airing now on Halo Waypoint.
Yeah, so in some ways, Forward Unto Dawn, which takes place way before the events of Halo 4.
Like 20 years or something.
Yeah, and that deals with some elements of the Master Chief and his meeting this Thomas Lasky, which is a character that you'll also be introduced to in the campaign. And so their experiences of actually in that time period at the Corbulo Military Academy will absolutely have an effect. And so if you watch that series, you don't have to watch it, but if you do watch it, you'll actually get some extra context for when Commander Lasky and the Master Chief are actually reunited after decades. That they actually get to, so that when Lasky walks up to the Master Chief, they already know each other and they have this whole history. And you don't need to know
buddy.
that. Yeah, you don't need to know that to get at the thing. But that's part of what we decided when we first formed the studio, that we decided that every story we're telling, whether it's in the game or in books or comics or whatever it is, they all matter. They're all legitimate. They all have an effect on this universe. So
the omission of Firefight kind of is making a little bit more sense to me now from a philosophical perspective on 343's approach to Halo 4, because the campaign is all about the narrative of Master Chief. The war games, the multiplayer is wrapped in a narrative. Spartan Ops is pushed with a narrative. Firefight is an arcade thing and doesn't really fit into that mix. So, I'm sure ultimately, there was the nuts and bolts decision of we don't have time or money or manpower for this, but it is your answer is a valid one. In this, I'm not just sitting here feeling shorted as a fan, like, oh, they're just spinning that because that's a stupid PR spin answer. But no, that is a legitimate answer that, it doesn't really fit in with the narrative focus of the rest of the components of Halo 4. And
as a player, I totally appreciate the idea that we're getting something new in place of it. It's not just, oh, here's the tried and true multiplayer, here's Firefight, here's everything you want. Instead, it's like, here's something you don't necessarily know that you want. Here's something that you can have sustainable over the course of 10 weeks.
And when, I'm not saying anything controversial here, and everything that makes up Spartan Ops, it's a substantial amount of content, way more than Firefight, because it's sort of Firefight, which I enjoy very much. It's sort of a static, you play it and you can change certain parameters, but it's sort of the same thing every time. But we're going to continuously having new content. So
and
the Halo 4 is always, it's every time you log in, it's going to be new. If you log in and you haven't been online in a week or so,
are weekly challenges and all that stuff coming back?
Yeah. So challenges are coming back. I don't know if we've gone way detailed dive on them or anything, but I think there was a portion of Halo Reach's suite of offerings that we actually really enjoyed, and the community especially really seemed to enjoy the challenges. We introduced custom challenges through Halo Waypoint, and those are definitely coming back too, and we'll have some more information on the details specifically as we kind of lead up to launch.
So I could post a challenge that says Mitch. Can I direct it at one person, or are we talking about that later? All those details. Or
so
what?
I mean, you can actually do custom challenges in Reach right now, so you can log on and kind of see how that's worked in the past. And like I said, we'll have some more specific information on how that stuff works as we get closer to launch.
All right.
I think if you're a fan of challenges in Halo Reach, we have more and better and awesomer stuff coming for you.
The Spartan Ops missions, they're not just things built in Forge, right? These are full on.
Yeah, we use the same tool sets as Campaign. I mean, it's the same stuff. I mean, in essence, it is very similar. There are some different design constraints in how we've kind of designed our missions compared to Campaign, because they are smaller. But the missions, all the missions within a week, sort of flow together, and they all have these narrative strings that tie into the overarching series. I've sort of talked about this before. It's like we're telling all these stories in Spartan Ops and in Halo 4, and so in Spartan Ops specifically, it's like this kind of Russian nesting doll of we're telling these stories within each mission.
Tim Schafer would love to hear you say this.
and then you have the stories within the mission that carry over to the other missions within that week, and then you have these meta stories within those weeks which tie in to the CG series, and that stuff all ties into the continuing story of the Halo universe post-campaign. So you have all these different things that are all working in conjunction. We're very fortunate to have an amazing narrative team headed up by Armando Trossi. Brian Reed's one of the writers I work with very closely. We have just an amazing team across the board, and that's one of the fun things with Spartan Ops. You have the designers, you have the artists, you have the narrative folks. We're all working together to kind of tell these stories and craft these experiences.
So tell me, kind of, I'm curious, as somebody who was in games media and is now a designer in game development. So what, walk me real quick through your day. Like, what is it that you do? What is it to be a mission designer on Spartan Ops? What do you sit down and do all day?
Are you building levels? Are you writing? Are you what's your life?
One of the fun things is that what we're doing so new. It's like we really had to establish what it means to make these missions and to make this episodic content. We had to kind of we had to learn how to do it. And so really, what we do is we have these planning meetings and we plan out like weeks of content. We plan out episodes, and then we work with the designers, we work with the narrative team, we work with the artists to plan out where you're going to be going, what you're going to be doing. But within the confines of each mission that you're responsible for, the designer basically has, almost no limits. It's absolute control. I mean, there are technical limitations and resource limitations and stuff, but really you can kind of do whatever you want to. So we'll work with the artists to tweak the actual geometry of levels and, tweak things and make changes to it. And then we'll work with the other designers within the week's worth of missions to make sure that story-wise we're picking up after the CG series and continuing that thread forward and kind of continuing it through the week and leading up to the next week's content. And then we work on the missions. Like, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go, point A, you're going to do thing X, you're going to fight thing Y.
Okay.
And you're going to time all these things out. So we script the encounters with, in some cases, hand script stuff. So I had to learn how to code and do all that stuff. We have some tool sets that we use that allow us to basically run the game engine on the fly, make changes to stuff.
Yeah.
So we can immediately play test stuff and be like, oh, that's not working quite right, and let's change this, let's rebuild, and let's play through it again. So it's just constant iteration. We basically do, we have the pretty rapid iteration. We're very, very agile group because we're a fairly small group from the design side, so we're able to iterate really, really quickly and make changes to things. So basically, we'll get an entire mission, the core of it, kind of bare bones, up and running in a week.
Oh, wow.
And then, we just keep iterating and keep polishing and keep play testing, just keep playing. And, like, we're our own harshest critics, so we'll play each other's missions and be like, man, that sucked, or holy crap, I've never seen what you just did. I've never seen anyone do that. That's really cool. And so we're very fortunate. Chris Luke is the lead Spartan Ops designer. Just amazing guy. I couldn't have a better team. I couldn't have a better boss. And I feel very, very lucky to be where I'm at and doing what I'm doing.
And so what you're saying is my ticket out of here... Sorry, Mitch. Could be.
It's all right. Take me with you.
I don't really need programming skills or visual artistic skills.
I can be my talentless self.
If I understand games, I could eventually, grow up and get a real job.
People are only limited by what they do or what they think they can't do. I was sort of just kind of thrown in the deep end, and I had a trial period where they were like, okay, we're going to give you a shot. But if that hadn't worked out, I would have gone back to doing what I was doing. Yeah. I was fortunate that I was able to I guess, pull it off, or I'll say we're just desperate enough that I was the right guy in the right time. I don't know.
You'll do.
I think only time will tell, but I'm really excited for people to get a chance to actually be playing stuff that I made that I still grin every time I actually think about that, and it's a fun time.
All right, well, David Ellis, thanks for stopping by on your trip down from Seattle. Halo 4, of course, out November 6th. Everybody listening to this podcast damn well better be buying it. Otherwise, why are you listening to this podcast? Spartan Ops, weekly episodes starting on launch day.
Yep.
5 chapters, 5 missions.
Yep.
Consist of episode 1, along with the CG video, and there'll be that same similar structured package every week for an additional 9 weeks, and then maybe a season 2 down the road.
As we talked about earlier, I'm actually going to be getting on a plane right after I finish this podcast and going right back to the studio, because we're still making Spartan Ops. We're still creating these experiences. So
I want to be an NPC. Make me a Marine.
And maybe we could work something out. Let's talk off mic. But yeah, we're still working pretty hard on this first season, and who knows what the future can hold. But right now we don't have any plans other than finishing this season off and launching Halo 4 come November.
All right, David, thank you very much.
Thank you.